Well, welcome everybody. I am so pleased you chose to spend some of your valuable time with us here today, and you're going to be really glad you did. I am looking forward to this conversation. It's a topic that we don't often address. I think we don't talk about in polite company, and we need to start doing that. We're talking today about the hidden negotiations of domestic abuse. And I'd ask you, what if the most important negotiation isn't across a boardroom table, but it's one for your safety, your sanity, perhaps your children's lives? Like I say, today's conversation is going to be a little different, but profoundly important. You know, we often talk on the show about power, influence, and negotiation. But what happens when negotiation isn't about getting more? It's about staying safe. And my guest today, Patricia Gordon Stevens, is a licensed counselor. She's got a master's in counseling from Edith Cowan University. She's originally from Memphis, Tennessee, and now lives in South Australia, one of my favorite places. And she runs Maxwell House Counseling, specializing in grief, trauma, anxiety, and bereavement. And her debut novel, Madness in Memphis, takes readers inside the lived experience of domestic abuse. You know, really addresses the fear, the isolation, the manipulation, and the sometimes impossible choices that women face. And I'd like to say it isn't just fiction, because I think it's emotional truth grounded in lived experience and professional insight. So today, sit back and get ready, because we're going to unpack some of the myths, the psychology, the silent negotiations happening behind closed doors, and most importantly, how awareness can lead to action. So Patricia, I'm thrilled to have you here, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Cindy, and what a beautiful intro. You touched on so many significant points instantaneously. So I really appreciate that. Well said, well
Well,
stated. Thank you.
thank you. And thank you for putting your book out in the world. And well, why don't we kick off, Patricia? I want to ask, you're a licensed counselor. You work with trauma survivors on a daily basis. I was curious why you chose fiction. I love it. And curious why you chose fiction as a vehicle to tell the story rather than writing, a traditional nonfiction book.
Well, to me, this was the most important thing. How many times have we heard? We know the statistics, we see them. I'm on LinkedIn. I suppose you may be on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a great advocacy space, especially for women who are experiencing domestic violence. But we see those statistics, we hear them, we read them. We see it on the news. Regrettably, one woman who had a restraining order against her husband and her children are now gone. This happens repeatedly. What would that do? I write another book, Cindy, nonfiction. I give you all the stats that I can possibly pull from 5 different areas.
Yeah.
I don't think, I feel like, which is so incredibly sad, these stats are falling on deaf ears. I felt if I could take you, if I could take the reader inside the experience of what a woman is actually feeling, what she's going through, the shame, the guilt,
Yeah.
the wanting freedom and safety so badly she can taste it, but not knowing how to get there. If you could experience her reflections,
Yeah.
her anger, her fear, that's going to set you at the heart of what goes on behind closed doors. And we don't know in most instances truly what's happening behind closed doors.
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant choice, frankly, because I think you're right. When we read the statistics, when we read the narratives, we're distanced, right? It's something separate
Yes.
from us. But when we read fiction, fiction well written, we care about those characters. We are living with them. We grieve with them. And when the book ends, we feel a loss that we don't have them in our lives anymore. So it's more likely to stay with us and resonate with us. And I know you've said statistics don't capture what it feels like to live in the abuse. So, and you've touched on it, I think, in your answer a second ago, Patricia, but what do the numbers miss that a narrative can reveal?
The numbers are numbers. The numbers miss how many times she almost left. The numbers miss what happens when she physically, mentally, emotionally makes that decision to leave the marital home or the home where the relationship was happening with her children. The numbers miss everything that goes into that. The numbers miss the fact that it's not poor educated or undereducated or alcoholic or drug
Yeah.
abusing women. Discrimination is not a part of domestic violence. It touches all women in every aspect of life. That's what the numbers miss.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about what you did, because your protagonist is successful and intelligent and financially independent and still becomes trapped. And again, you may have just touched on it, but why was it important to challenge the stereotype of what a quote unquote abused woman looks like?
Well, Because I think we're used to what we're seeing on TV and in the movies. I live with this. I have the privilege. I have the privilege and the honor of sitting with women who have come to me and shared stories that quite frankly left me breathless. I am so proud of these women and the resilience that it took for them to go on and go forward and carry on with their lives. So that's it, really, truly.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the most persistent myths about domestic abuse, it's a giant pet peeve of mine. It drives me crazy. You know, the knee-jerk reaction from both men and women is, why doesn't she just leave? You know, what do people fundamentally misunderstand about that question?
First of all, most of the women I've had the pleasure of meeting and going through their stories feel great guilt. They feel shame. And they feel as though they have been made to feel since day one. If you only didn't say that, if you just behaved differently, if you acted differently, if you looked differently, if you didn't do what you did, I wouldn't do what I do.
Yeah.
So they're carrying that with them. And Cindy, a lot of women do make the changes. They think, oh my gosh, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I didn't dress appropriately. So they start making all these different changes to try to appease and to please, but nothing is going to make a difference. None of those changes are going to matter. Yeah. So she's going through 1,000 stories in her head. She knows that once she leaves, based on other stories and statistics, yeah, he's going to lose control. Yeah. Once he loses control, that's when the violence escalates. And so there's a lot of fear. If it's just her, that may be a different story. But if it's a woman with her children, there is a lot to consider, a lot.
Yeah. And from a negotiation lens, I mean, the statistics suggest that leaving an abusive partner is often the most dangerous time. And I think you just alluded to that escalation. So can you maybe walk us through from your perspective or your experience with your clients, what's actually happening, you know, psychologically and strategically, for want of a better term, in that phase?
Well, they're looking for a safe place. They're looking for a really safe place. And I could go into volumes right here, but I'll try to keep it, I'll try to refrain right now for the moment. They are looking for a safe place. And they know that the moment they make that decision, if they go to a place where she's open about it, he knows she's moving to house A, house B, 5 streets over, that's not going to prevent him from coming by. He may even have a restraining order. Most restraining orders do not prevent people from doing what they want to do. He starts the negotiations. He starts saying, oh, this is so wrong. Look what we've built together. The more time, energy, and effort he has placed into that relationship, the madder he's going to be that he is losing control of her, period.
Yeah. And let's talk about, because abuse often escalates from charm, right, to that emotional manipulation, then, you know, coercion, and then, you know, often physical terror. What are some of the subtle red flags that women and those who love them should be watching for early on?
Well, to go back, I would love for all women and men. I mean, men are not the only monsters. We know women are too, but this book is based on male on female violence. Yeah. And the violence against males is happening, but it hasn't reached the stats where we are. So let's make that clear. We're talking about male on female violence. Yeah. He will ingratiate himself to her friends, her family. He will move in quickly to make sure they know the best side of him. They will think he is a charmer. Yeah. I plead with young women. I plead with older women. I plead with all people to please get to know the person you say you're in love with. Do not rush off and get married. Do not rush off and move in with someone until you've known them for at least a minimum of a year. Yeah. We all have two sides. We have good within us. We have bad within us. But to keep a facade up, to keep up a fake personality for over a year is a very difficult thing to do. So please give the relationship time. But how many times have you heard the story? After I said I do, everything changed. Yeah. We've heard that, haven't we? And it's real. It truly does happen. So please give yourself time. And once the violence does start happening or incidents start occurring, when the woman goes to share the story with her loved ones or her friends, oh, he couldn't be capable of that. Yeah. He couldn't do that. I know him. He's wonderful. And then some people say, what did you do? What did you do to cause it? I mean, it's this huge It's just a huge cycle that's already started.
Yeah.
And he's weaving a web.
Yeah. And what are some of the signs of that web? Like I know when you start seeing that separation, right? That subtle pulling you away from your support network and things like that.
Mm.
Any other red flags that maybe our listeners out there should be looking for perhaps in their own relationships or those of someone they care about?
Well, we know, you and I both know when we first fall in love, the music is singing, the butterflies are
Yeah.
flying, our stomachs flip at even the prospect of seeing him or her, within the next few minutes. We're so excited.
Yeah.
Things shift, things change. We don't contact our girlfriends and our family as much as we used to because we're in this bubble. We're
Yeah.
in this beautiful bubble where that chemistry and is just sky high. So that's understandable. But if it continues,
Yeah.
we all must be vigilant and we must be diligent. We must be curious. We must check in. If she's not answering text messages, if she's not ringing you the way she used to, please reach out. If you must go over, go over. If he answers the door, puts his arm up and says, oh, she's not feeling well today, she has an awful headache, she can't see you today, or she's not available, whatever. If you feel safe enough,
Yeah.
push through. Oh no, she's my dear friend. I haven't seen her in so long. I must speak with her.
Yeah.
If you are afraid, if it's not a good idea for you to do that, go back and grab your tribe.
Yeah.
Grab your tribe. If she's not answering the phone when you're really pushing, and if you need to get the police involved, say you're concerned.
Yeah.
Get advice, but go over. Don't leave it alone. If you are out in a social group, you're at dinner, you're at a gathering, and he's controlling her and controlling the conversation, if her demeanor has changed,
Yeah.
if her dress has changed, she doesn't dress the way she used to. She used to be vibrant, outgoing, extroverted perhaps, and now she's withdrawn and mousy.
Yeah.
All of these are red flags. All of these are signs to look for.
Yeah. I love
We
that.
have to be vigilant.
And we need to start talking about it, which is why I love that your book is out there in the form that it's out there as well. And let's talk about the coercive control and how, like in your experience, how does that kind of control distort a woman's internal negotiation, right? Her confidence, even her perception of reality, her sense of what her options even are.
Well, perfect. You hit the nail on the head. What are her options if he's carrying the financial purse strings, if he's doling out money or her spending money for groceries? What if he's tracking? All these people think that tracking is such a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm 70 years of age, Cindy. I never tracked my children.
You
I
look
don't know what the
fabulous.
track. Well, thank you. But the point is, I have no idea what that world is about. I'm learning about that world.
Yeah.
But what if there's a tracking device? You have to get a detective over to check your car out to find if it's under the wheel, above the wheel, under the car. How
Yeah.
many women have money to do that? A lot of women do.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, she feels ashamed. Her self-worth is down to zero. And sometimes the more high-powered a woman is, Cindy, if she's a
Yeah.
CEO of an organization, if she's been a professional and wildly successful in her life, she is questioning how she missed it,
Yeah.
what happened to her perception skills. And she doesn't want to admit, a
Yeah.
lot of people don't want to admit that it's a fractured marriage, a failed relationship. I mean, all of that people hold closely to them. Not everybody is open about their private lives.
Yeah.
So, the saying, the taller you are, the higher you are,
Yes.
the harder you
Are you?
tumble. All women are hurting. All women are suffering from self-esteem. But can you imagine if you don't have a penny to even go get a hotel room because he's doling it out?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole significant impact of that time is finding a safe place.
Yeah. And the
And so,
embarrassment, as you were saying that, right? I'm thinking, and also as you say, like almost the higher the position, the more people look up to you. In some ways, the more embarrassed you are to ever share, or because you're questioning yourself, how the hell did I end up here, right?
how
How
did
did this happen? So,
yes, and her employees, her staff members are saying there's no way that could have happened to her. What's going on? They're
yeah,
just in disbelief.
yeah,
We can ask a woman, how are you? How is the new relationship going? And she can say, fine, thank you. We can ask her 5 or 6 times.
yeah,
But a woman who is holding everything close to her doesn't want, it may take 7 times, and she might respond by saying, I'm afraid. I
yeah,
am so afraid, and I don't know what next move I'm going to take. I don't even know how to get there.
yeah,
And that's when you pull in the support again. I tell everybody, if you have a family friend, if you have an extra country home, if you have a spare bedroom, if you can offer a safe place for a woman and her two children temporarily, 10 days, 2 weeks,
Yeah,
someplace where she can breathe,
yeah.
breathe and make a plan without the constant threat over her shoulder of what is he going to do next. You may well save somebody's life.
That's great advice, Patricia. Great advice. And you spoke to fear, and I often talk about fear as one of the most powerful drivers in negotiations. How does fear, can you speak to us for a bit about like how does fear operate inside an abusive relationship?
Your cortisol levels must be through the roof, but you just don't know. I had a woman tell me that she would prepare her family meals the same way that she prepared for violence. She knew it was going to come throughout the day, but she didn't know. She didn't know if it was going to be before coffee. She didn't know if it was going to happen when he came home for lunch because he was checking on her,
Yeah.
or if it was going to happen after dinner, post dinner, because he didn't like what he was being served. She never knew, but she knew it was part of the agenda for the day.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that's your day in a relationship that's supposed to be your number one relationship where you're supposed to be loved and nurtured?
Yeah. And it can be insidious, right? And I'll share transparently. I came, as close as I could have to, in law school, I was dating somebody at start gain, it was passionate and, an intense relationship, and it started subtly, and then it was like, oh, that controlling behavior and always so sorry and the serious apologies, and it's because I care more than I ever have. I've never been like this before. And you start, falling into those patterns again. And as you say, there's that constant walking on eggshells because any little thing can set them off, right? So I totally,
Any little thing.
and we don't talk to people. So I'm thrilled, like I say, you're putting the book out there, and for our listeners, if you've had an experience, even if it's not a full-blown sort of abuse situation, let's start talking about some of these warning signs. Let's start talking about options. I love, as Patricia said, let people know in your circle that you've got space in your home, you've got room in your life for them. And I want to talk, because as I was just talking about that relationship, which was many, decades ago now, gaslighting is, it wasn't called that back then, but it's a powerful tactic. And can you talk to us about how psychological manipulation changes somebody's ability to trust their own judgment?
Well, you can imagine if you're repeatedly told, "Oh, you're wrong. That's not how it is. You're absolutely wrong. You have this wrong." You start doubting yourself. That is coercive control.
Yeah.
You start doubting yourself. You don't know what's truth and reality. And then when you don't have the strength to feel like yourself, you don't have the strength to know that you're making good decisions, you're doubting everything, you lose that ability to make decisions,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yeah.
You just feel weak and uncertain, and you don't know how to put the next foot forward.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of Australia. New South Wales and Queensland have brand new coercive control laws in place. A man was
Hey.
just found guilty in New South Wales, I think just a week ago. South Australia, where I live,
Yeah.
has just passed law that's going to come into effect in 2027. I regret that it's going to be 2027, but they say everybody has to be on the same page,
Yeah.
whatever that means. But the
Yeah.
point is, it's happening.
That's
It's not just covering up the bruises on the face.
yeah.
It's everything else that diminishes your life
Yeah.
and makes you feel like you're captive in your own home.
Yeah.
That's not normal. That's not living.
Yeah. Well, and kudos to Australia. I didn't hear that, so thank you for sharing. And I must say, in North America, I feel like we're, with all the political climate right now, we're taking steps backward, frankly, in terms of the protection of women and children, evidently. So now, for listeners who may suspect, and we touched on this a bit, but if we've got some listeners out here who suspect that a friend or colleague is in an abusive relationship, what are some things they should avoid, and or what are maybe some of the most helpful things that they can say or how to approach?
Well, the last thing you need to be speaking, this is my counselor's voice, but the
Yeah.
last thing you need to be is judgmental.
Yeah.
I mean, so many women, best friends, sisters,
Yep.
friends for life say, "I told you so.
Yeah.
I told you, I warned you about him. I told you there is something not right. I told you that in the very beginning." Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Is any of that going to be helpful? Now is the time for you to put your big girl panties on and say, "What are we going to do? Where
Yeah.
are we going to go from here? I'm here for you. I'm here to not only listen, but I've got a room back here. I have a friend who has a room. We can get you there. We can get an attorney involved, getting legal support from day one. And also having her keep a journal. You wish all women kept dates and
Yeah.
times of episodes. That is really crucial. Believe it or not, that in the end is so helpful. So
Yeah.
if any woman is out there doubting her relationship, thinking she's going to be making an escape as soon as possible, it's never too late to start jotting down anything and everything that's happening that
That's
frightens you or that you find very odd or curious or you're doubting. Write it down,
that
date and time.
great practical advice. I love that. And again, for our listeners, I hope that you were listening deeply to that, because I think we are so conditioned. It's a very knee-jerk reaction. If someone we care about is in a situation, we suspect they're in a situation, that judgment is going to shut things down faster than you can imagine.
Oh,
So put a lid on why would you take that? Or why do you let him? Or any of those questions, however well intended you are, that put the person on the defensive, because then those walls are going to go up and you're going to have no hope. So I hope you listen to Patricia's advice about some better ways to handle that, and that you're making some notes yourself. And let's talk about workplaces for a moment, because as someone who worked in labor and employment law for many decades, I certainly saw how workplaces can either empower or, sadly, more often
oh.
silence women. So what role can employers and professional networks play in supporting women who are in these situations?
Well, they need to take grievances seriously. And if there is a good boy culture happening in the workplace, and if sexist jokes are flying around, or if someone's patting somebody on their bottom,
Yeah.
you don't think these things still happen, but they do.
Oh, yeah.
How, especially in a workplace, that has to be documented, that has to be taken seriously, that has to be called out. Someone has to be spoken with.
Yeah.
But what if you're out at the pub? What if you're down at your cafe, your restaurant, and you see all of this behavior going on? What if your best friend is absolutely saying horrific,
Yeah.
demeaning, horrible, vile things and laughing about it towards a woman? Are you going to go back home? Are you going to return home not having said a word?
Yeah.
If it fractures the relationship, is this the kind of friends you want who
Yeah.
treats women this way? It's not funny. And there are 40 and 50-year-old men and older who still do it. It's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Call out bad behavior.
Yeah. I love
If
that.
you can't kiss and make up, well, then
Yeah.
that's it is what it is.
And for our listeners out there, if you happen to be in a leadership position within your organization, step up, take steps to make sure that your workplace is a safe place, and that somebody in a situation of domestic abuse, don't just say, well, that's a personal thing that has nothing to do with the workplace,
Oh,
right? I mean, there is an obligation there. Make sure your human resources department has the resources and the systems and protocols in place to be able to deal with this effectively and efficiently and without judgment, creating that safe environment that Patricia was talking about. So, and let's talk about empowerment for a second, Patricia. Like, what does real empowerment look like in the context of domestic violence, right? I mean, it's not just about being strong. And I think that's the illusion why people are embarrassed to talk. It's like, oh, I'm just not being strong enough. What would you say empowerment looks like?
the ability to believe in yourself to make choices, the ability to believe in yourself and not doubt yourself, to know that this is so important. We've been told our entire lives how important our gut instincts are,
Yeah.
our gut feeling, our gut instincts. As a counselor, nothing could be more true. Listen to those feelings.
Yeah.
If something feels off, 9 times out of 10, Cindy, it is
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Start paying attention closely to those. You don't have to magnify it, just pay close attention and deal with it.
Yeah. I love that. And again, for our listener, retrain to trust in your intuition again. I mean, my gosh, it's called women's intuition for a reason historically. And we've been so conditioned to ignore it and stifle it because it just seemed too woo-woo, or somehow we thought it would limit our opportunities for success if we tapped in. So own that intuition, nourish that intuition, and nurture it and trust in it. And maybe for women who are listening who may be in the early stages, Patricia, of coercion or control in a relationship, what is one small first step that they could take as a practical matter towards safety today? What would you suggest?
Don't doubt yourself. Please don't doubt yourself. Believe in yourself like you've never believed in yourself before. And still, it's really good to start documenting
Yeah.
because 2 days from the incident, from the sentence, from the remark, from the conversation, you can go back and revisit
Yeah.
that and say, oh, this is so off.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
And then there's a bit of panic
Yeah.
because you really do see what's going on, and
Yeah.
you need to leave. You need to go. You need another space for your life.
Yeah.
And so deep breaths, go slowly, don't panic, because when we make decisions during panic time, those things can escalate and make the situation worse. Have a plan. Have a good solid plan and share that plan with the person you trust the most.
And I love that insight about the journal because I think when we talk about journals, everybody thinks about it as evidence for down the road and or being able to get your feelings out. But I confess, I never thought about until when you just said it, that resonated. Again, for our listeners, I want to really put a pin in this. Journaling also gives you the ability to have greater perspective by looking at it. When you're in the moment, you lose perspective. You are not thinking straight. You don't have the capacity to push past the gaslighting, perhaps. You're probably assuming the guilt, allowing yourself to go back and look at it in the cold light of another day when you're not in that moment and maybe they're not around and you've got the luxury of really looking at it a little more objectively. What an eye opener that is. I love that insight. Now, I know you've described your book as both a thriller and a call to awareness. What change do you hope that your story creates in society?
Oh, that this can happen to your niece, your cousin, your sister, your daughter, your mother, even your grandmother. This can happen to any female in your life. I don't care how well educated or
Yes.
professional she is. And that's a sad thing to say, but it truly is. I want people to know it does not discriminate. Pay attention. Pay close attention to the females that you love in your life because I will say it again, we never know what's going on behind closed doors. And
Absolutely.
it's a hard thing to share with someone. It's dark,
Yeah.
it's messy, it's dirty. People feel stained around it, but we
Yes.
have to talk about it.
Mm,
One in four
pain.
women, Cindy, one in four
I
women in
know.
Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom, and the American Psychiatric Association. I think I read something just 2 weeks ago that said really it's more like one in three.
Yeah, I think
So,
post-COVID, those numbers really rose, and I don't know that they've been coming down fast enough. So that's a terrifying statistic. And when you talk about that sort of disdain, I love that word, by the way. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. It's something rippled through me when you said that. What was, if you don't mind me asking, Patricia, one of the most emotionally difficult parts for you in writing this book?
whew, well, that's a 5 hour story and a bottle of French champagne, and you're buying.
I love champagne. That's great.
Cindy, I'm a very fast writer. I wrote it quickly. I felt like I was in a manic state. I wrote 7 to 9,000 words a day. This is not a memoir. This is not a memoir. This is for all women who are experiencing domestic violence, but some incidents were personal to me. Morgan Sage's reflections, her anger, her fear, that is me, but that is every woman who's experiencing. I've had women in Perth contact me saying, oh, Patricia, if you just changed where it was, that's me. That could be my story. It is resonating with a lot of people.
Nice.
I'm an animal lover. I'm a huge animal lover of all animals. So there were scenes where I wrote and I was weeping and I would have to get up and go put my feet in the grass, get grounded again and come back. But this is a part of the domestic violence picture for many. If growing children, adolescents, teenagers harm animals, you better believe that is a decent sign that they're going to harm others too. They're going to move on to people down the road. So it's a tough, intense,
Yeah.
dark subject, but it needs to be discussed.
Yeah, and I love that. Recognizing that is going to help us make the changes that need to be made. And I know you touched on some practical advice. Following up on that, I guess I'd ask if this episode reaches one woman who is silently struggling, what would you want her to hear most clearly today?
You may think, and you probably could walk out on your own, but it is so much better to have a circle of support, a tribe. The more people you trust who know what you're trying to do, the more people you have in your corner will make the transition easier. If you don't have a close friend, or if you're out of state, you're out of country, you've moved away from all of your friends, churches are a good place to start, but community centers normally have access to services that can help or benefit this person. Please reach out
Yeah.
and know that after baby steps and some time, you will learn to trust again. You will learn to love again. You don't need to be in a rush about anything. Just be gentle and kind to yourself and stay safe.
That's great advice. And just finally, Patricia, like on this show, we talk a lot about negotiating your best life. And what would you say negotiating your best life means to you? But like, especially in the context of reclaiming safety and dignity after trauma.
Knowing yourself,
Mm,
understanding yourself.
nice.
Are you the kind of person who can spend time alone without doing anything? Or are you the person who's making a plan every single second of the day because you honestly cannot stand to sit with yourself?
Nice.
Negotiating for my best life was reflection upon reflection upon reflection of mistakes I've made, of people I may have hurt too, and then learning to live with it and knowing that I have the strength to make the right decisions for myself now. That's my best life, making the best decisions I can for my life moving forward.
Yeah. And you know what I love about that is that knowing ourselves in that way that you've just described allows us to love ourselves. And I think as women, we don't do that often enough. You know, a lot of workshops that I teach, I ask women, the women in the room, I want you to write down 25 things that you can love about yourself. And
They couldn't.
invariably, they do exactly. They're frozen, absolute shell shock, time after time again in the workshop. So I think that's beautiful advice. And where can people learn more about you and your fabulous new book, Patricia?
They can learn about me at www.patriciagordonstevens.com, on Insta, social, Patricia Gordon Stevens author, and Facebook. I want so badly to get a conversation started. I want to speak with people, but when they leave reviews on Amazon, I can't go in and respond. I would love to have more discussions about madness in Memphis.
That's gorgeous. I love that. And we'll make sure to put that in the show notes. So don't panic if you're doing something and multitasking at the moment. You can come back to this and we will always include that information in the show notes. And make sure as well to not only look, you can find the book on Amazon, but go ask at your local bookstore as well to get the book
Yes,
in. You'll be doing a favor to Patricia, but you'll also be doing a favor to other women in your community by raising awareness of the bookstore and have them get copies of the book into the shelves in your local community so we can start raising awareness of everybody. And Patricia, thank you so much for joining us for this powerful conversation and being so vulnerable and getting that book out in the world as well. Thank you.
well, Cindy, I think you're absolutely brilliant at what you do. And I'm not blowing smoke. I really mean that. And the questions that you ask your people at your workshop, absolutely splendid. I salute you. I thank you. It's been a privilege.
Oh, I'm right back at you. And to our listeners, as always, thank you for joining us. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need the reminder that they are not alone. Domestic abuse thrives in silence, and awareness is the first step toward change. It's one of the reasons I felt it was so important to bring Patricia here to share her book. It's a story that you can share, go buy the book, and maybe give it to somebody who you think is perhaps at the early stages of trouble right now so they can read it in a non-threatening way. And as always, remember the most important negotiation you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And if you're ready to deepen your own negotiation power, rooted in empathy, curiosity, and courage, come find me at artoffemininenegotiation.com. And until next time, this is Cindy Watson reminding you to lead with heart, listen deeply, and renegotiate those stories that no longer serve you. And I'm inviting you to stand in your power and negotiate your best life. Until next time, take care.